What's going on, guys? Jimmy from MB Daily here, and today I want to talk to you about everything that happened before and on the trade deadline. So the day before and the trade deadline was super busy in the NBA. There was tons of trades and some not so interesting, and some smaller players, some cash and picks that got traded, and then a couple of pretty big trades that went down that actually are really going to shape the way the playoffs play out. So the first thing I want to do is talk about how which trades went down before the trade deadline, so leading up to the 7th. All right, so the first trade that went down, or the biggest trade that went down leading up to the trade deadline, was the Mavs. They traded Dennis Smith Jr., DeAndre Jordan, Wesley Matthews, and 2 first-rounders for Kristaps Porzingis, Tim Hardaway Jr., Courtney Lee, and Trey Burke. So everyone heard about the Kristaps trade, and now you got Kristaps, Luka, and Dirk for a year, still on that team. So the All-European team now in Dallas. But that was a really big trade that got made leading up to the trade deadline. Who knows what's going to happen with that? But see, Kristaps with Luka now on the Mavs, it's going to be fun to watch. And they also got Tim Hardaway out of that trade. I mean, granted, they gave up Dennis Smith Jr., who's a nice young piece, DeAndre Jordan, who's a really good center, Wesley Matthews, he's a good role player, and 2 first-rounders, but Kristaps Porzingis is an all-star. He's just all-star player, and Luka's looking like an all-star right now too. So see where that's going to go and who works out better in that favor. The next trade we got, though, is the Blazers traded Nick Stauskas and Wade Baldwin. Not the last time you're gonna hear from him in this talk. Believe me, they could trade like 2 or 3 more times. And 2 second-rounders, so those 2 players and 2 second-rounders for Rodney Hood from the Cavs. So that trade went down. I think easily the Cavs ended up winning that trade. I mean, I don't know what they turned Nick Stauskas and Baldwin into. They did turn him into more picks and some other players as well, but just based off that trade alone, I do think that Rodney Hood going to the Blazers is going to help them just for some scoring off the bench. So the next trade we got going on here is another big trade here leading up to it was the Sixers and the Clippers. So the Clippers, they traded Tobias Harris, Boban Marjanovic, and Mike Scott, and they traded them to the Sixers in return for Landry Shamet, Wilson Chandler, Mike Muscala, and then two first-rounders and 2 second-rounders. So that's a pretty big trade, because now if you look at the 76ers, you got Tobias Harris now, you got Jimmy Butler, who was traded this season, Ben Simmons, who's an all-star, Joel Embiid, who's probably the best center in the NBA right now, comparable to DeMarcus Cousins. I would probably say Joel Embiid. He's unbelievable. And J.J. Redick, who can shoot from anywhere on the floor. So, and they also got some good scoring off the bench with a couple of these other trades as well. So the 76ers are dangerous now. All right, now going along to the next one here. I have them all listed out in front of me because there was way too many to just try to remember them all. So I got them listed here, so I'm going to read them right off to you guys. All right, next one we got here. Suns, they traded Ryan Anderson, and in return from the Heat, they got Tyler Johnson, decent player. They got Wayne Ellington, and they also got some cash. Next up was the last trade before the trade deadline. So this was up until February 6th. So the trades after this are going to be on February 7th, but this was the last one before it, which was the Bulls, who traded Jabari Parker, Bobby Portis, and a second-rounder, and in return from the Wizards, got Otto Porter Jr. Now, I think Bobby Portis is a great player. I think Jabari Parker is still young. We'll see if he turns out to be a really big bust or not. And then you got a second-rounder out of it. And then Otto Porter, who could end up shining on the Bulls, because the Bulls don't have a lot of pieces. They did have a lot of competition at the power forward spot. Granted, they just get rid of 2 of them. But Otto Porter is going to be a big role player for them. So I'm hoping that maybe he can help turn that team into a little bit more of a franchise and maybe even a playoff contender. Not championship contender, but a playoff contender. So we'll see how that trade works out. All right, so now I'm going to move on to the actual trade deadline trades. So this is any trade that happened on February 7th, which was the actual trade deadline. So the first trade that I'm going to go over here is the Wizards and the Pelicans made a trade, where the Wizards traded Markieff Morris, who's been out with, I think it was a neck strain or neck sprain, and a second-rounder and some cash to the Pelicans, and in return get Wesley Johnson, so another role player for the Wizards to get here. Markieff Morris, actually, further, I think I'm going to go along here, but he ended up getting dropped. So in all realistic situations here, the Wizards ended up getting Wesley Johnson, and the Pels ended up getting a second-rounder in cash. But moving along anyway here, let's go ahead. We got the Mavs, who traded Harrison Barnes in the middle of a game. I've never seen that done before, and LeBron let Twitter have it because, you know, everyone has to know what LeBron's thinking. And yeah, Twitter was all over that one. Harrison Barnes in the middle of a game got traded. I've never seen that before. Let me know what you think about that one in the comments, because that is sort of unseen of. It's sort of just really not that professional. I mean, I know they say the NBA is a business, and that's why a lot of this conflicts coming on with, oh, if you think he's a snake for leaving, but it's also a business and this and that. But he traded him in the middle of a game. So, I mean, does he not get, like, the second half of that paycheck because he didn't play? I mean, I think he played the rest of the game, so he better get the paycheck. But anyways, I don't know how that happened. So the Mavs traded Harrison Barnes, and in return they get Zach Randolph, who hasn't played any minutes yet for the Kings this year, and Justin Jackson, so a nice young player there. So see how that trade works out. But in the middle of a game, really, Mavs? Really? But moving right along, so we got the Rockets in a three-way trade right here. We have the Rockets acquired Iman Shumpert, Nick Stauskas, made his way back, also with Wade Baldwin in the same trade to the Rockets, and a second-rounder. So that's who the Rockets acquired. The Cavs acquired Brandon Knight, Marquise Chris, a first and a second-rounder. And then we get the Kings in this trade, who's the third team. They acquired Alec Burks and a second-rounder. So out of this trade, knowing that Nick Stauskas and Wade Baldwin got moved from the Rockets, I don't know how I think the whole trade worked out here, but the Cavs did get a first and a second-round pick from them. They also got Brandon Knight, who could be a decent player on that Cavs team. They don't have a lot of talent, so Marquise Chris, I don't really know what to say about him. The Kings did get Alec Burks. I think he'll be a good player for them. They're just trying to get talent at this point. The Kings are in a tough situation. They get a second rounder too, so I mean, good for them to get another talentful player down there. But yeah, so that three-way trade, not really any huge names, but it was a big three-team trade. Sorry, excuse me. But let's go ahead and move on to the next one here. We got the Grizzlies trading Garrett Temple and J. Michael Green, who's had a pretty good year, and the Clippers traded Avery Bradley in return for them. Avery Bradley's had sort of a down year the past couple years, but if you remember when he was in Boston, he was an elite, even in Detroit a little bit, he was an elite defender and a solid scorer for those teams. But anyways, we'll keep going here. Another big trade actually coming up right here. We got the Sixers who traded Markelle Fultz. So we're trusting the process here. Trading away one of their first-round picks. They traded for Jonathan Simmons, a first and a second. So I know Markelle Fultz was supposed to be part of the process here, but I think getting Jonathan Simmons, who's not as good of a player as Markelle Fultz is supposed to be, potentially, but they also turned him into another first and a second rounder on top of getting Jonathan Simmons. So I really think the Magic got robbed here, because depending on how Markelle Fultz turns out to be, how good of a player he can turn out to actually be, we'll see. Like, time will tell how good of a trade this is. But I mean, for right now, the Sixers are trying to be a championship contender, and Markelle Fultz isn't going to help that. So this could end up being a good trade, and they got a couple of picks in return for it as well. All right, and then on to the next trade. We got another three-team trade here. All right, this was a fairly bigger one, I would say, not huge, but the Bucks ended up acquiring Nikola Mirotic, so that's a nice player for them to acquire. Nice role player, can shoot the three ball, nice stretch four they got going on there. The Pistons acquire Thon Maker, who wanted out of Milwaukee. And then the Pelicans acquired, in return for getting rid of Nikola Mirotic, so probably a decent price to pay. You got Stanley Johnson, Jason Smith, and 4 second-rounders. I mean, I know they're second-rounders, but still 4 of them in return for him, on top of getting Stanley Johnson and Jason Smith. All right, still got a couple more trades here. Go. Told you, it was a busy day. February 7th was crazy. A lot of smaller trades, but a couple of pretty big ones, and they're actually going to affect the race here in the playoff race down the stretch after All-Star break. So we got the Lakers, who traded Michael Beasley and Ivica Zubac right down the hallway to the other Los Angeles team, the Clippers, and in return, the Lakers are going to get Mike Muscala, who was traded from the 76ers in the Tobias Harris trade. So that worked out. They're just going to sort of walk down the hallways, flip locker rooms, and they'll see each other on the other side. And the next trade we got going on here is probably one of the biggest trades that may happen on the trade deadline, which was the Raptors traded Jonas Valanciunas, DeLon Wright, CJ Miles, and a second-rounder to the Grizzlies in return for Marc Gasol. Now, this trade, I think, is going to make the Raptors really a big contender in the East. I think it's looking like Milwaukee's going to be up there, and the Celtics are going to be up there. But I think right now I would have to say the 76ers and the Raptors will be the top two seeds in the East and probably will be in the Eastern Conference Championships. We'll see how it plays out, but that's my prediction right now. Even though I'm a Celtics fan, supporting my team, there's a whole lot of drama going on with the Celtics right now. So we'll see. That's my prediction, though. Those two teams, the Raptors and the Sixers, will be in the Eastern Conference Finals. So that'll be fun to watch, I think. Kawhi versus the whole process in Philadelphia. And then I'm going to go over quickly a couple of players that were waived. Like I said, Wade Baldwin, Nick Stauskas, they were traded from like a couple times to the Rockets, Cavs, Blazers, all over the place. They ended up just getting dropped. They were released. They're gone. They're not even on a team. So all those trades, they get traded 3 different teams in 1 week, and they're dropped. So they're gone, not even on a team. Who else? Wayne Ellington, who was traded to the Suns, got dropped. Wesley Matthews also get dropped before the trade deadline. And then Markieff Morris, who got dropped from the Pelicans after being traded. So all these players were traded in the week leading up to, actually almost the day and the day of the trade deadline. So we got all those players that were traded and then dropped. And then other players that around the league that were dropped, you got Marcin Gortat, who's, the center on the Clippers, but they got a couple new players now, so he got waived. Ben McLemore, who's still fairly young, he got waived as well. And then probably the biggest person that got waived is Enes Kanter from the Knicks. Now, he's definitely going to find a home somewhere. There's a whole lot of controversy about him and his comments and Turkey, and he didn't go with the team, and then he ate 7 burgers and had food poisoning, apparently, so there's that too. But, yeah, we'll see where Enes Kanter ends up, and I have him on my fantasy team right now, and I don't want to drop him because I know he's going to get picked up, so sort of fingers crossed for that situation. But anyways, we'll see where he ends up, but he was probably the biggest free agent now that's on the market, so definitely see where that ends up. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for me today. I just wanted to go over every trade that really could have any impact on the playoffs and the standings coming up to and after the All-Star break. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching. If you have any comments, please feel free to leave them below. Any suggestions on video ideas, anything like that, just feed them in here. It's all brand new, so anything's appreciated. If you did enjoy the video, leave a like rating. Subscribe for more, and I guess I'll catch you guys next time. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. See you later.